Hello, and welcome to the Kindred Podcast, where we are lucky enough to speak with some of the most inspiring people about their experiences of reconnecting with animals and nature and how actually that reconnection can save your life. Don't you agree?
I do agree.
And we'd love
Yes.
to hear our listeners' stories of animals that might have saved your life, whether that be emotionally or spiritually or even physically. I would love all those stories.
Yeah.
Sister, how many times in your life has the natural world influenced your perspective or mood or course of your life even perhaps?
Oh, that's pretty broad. Probably every day. I mean,
Daily? I mean, daily?
possibly.
Weekly?
Yeah.
Definitely weekly for me.
Definitely weekly. Like when it's nice and the birds are singing, the robins are out, and the
Mm-hmm.
crocuses are up. It's like, wow, that
Mm-hmm.
influences my mood a
Yeah,
lot.
absolutely, absolutely. I will say I'm definitely struggling a bit right now. I feel quite uninspired and sort of sometimes I said I feel a little dead inside. And I think what really is helpful, and I'm going to play this, I hope it works, is when I hear the spring peepers for the first time. And
Hmm.
they, from a young child, instilled a sense of hope and that we made it and we're going to be okay.
Hmm.
And they bring such joy to my whole being. And I want to play. If you don't know what spring peepers are, now hopefully this doesn't blow everyone's eardrums out. So let's just take a listen to what I recorded yesterday. So yes, those are the spring peepers, and
Yeah.
they were a din. Like it was echoing in my. They were so loud, and it just gave me a little bit of just inspiration, which is what I need right now. So, yes. And if you people love peepers, the tiny frog kind is what I mean, please.
There's plenty of peepers I do not like at all
So many
and do not
peepers,
find inspirational.
quite the opposite indeed. Well, I just wanted to, it's hard to say the word. We listen to a lot of true crime here. So, my sister and I. So this is where we just have to just be very clear. Clarity is life. Anyway,
That's
so
right.
if you would all be so kind to follow, rate, and review the show and give us the peepers 5 stars. And if you follow the podcast, it will also download automatically into your podcast library, and you'll never miss an episode. And you can follow our podcast wherever you listen. And your support helps boost our visibility in searches and allowing more listeners to discover us, which is fantastic. So don't forget to rate and review us. Your feedback means the world. So thank you. Thank you from all of us. So now back to what we were talking about at the top of this introduction. Our guest today is the epitome of how animals, and in this case, dogs, can reconnect us to our own humanness and put us on a journey to healing our hearts. So back in the fall, sister, I think you'll remember I attended that conference hosted by the nonprofit organization called CARE.
I do remember, yes.
It was amazing. And CARE stands for Companions and Animals for Reform and Equity. They're the first national BIPOC-led animal welfare organization. We had also previously interviewed Sloan Hawes, you'll remember. She was amazing. She's their chief of research and development, and that was in episode 49, which is how we came to be at the conference called The Gathering. So one afternoon, I heard a man speak all about his experience of working with dogs while incarcerated. And there was just something about this person that made me think, wow, this is a conversation I'd love to bring to Kindred. He had an energy that was so calm and kind and steady, and that kind of energy that dogs and really all animals really respond to. So later, I walked up to him and we started talking. And today we bring you this person, which we were so lucky to speak with.
Hmm.
So let me introduce you to Oscar Rodriguez. Oscar is the founder and CEO of Underdogs Canine Training, which focuses on dog psychology and dog behavior, located in Southern California. His professional services include dog walking, dog boarding, and working with dogs and their humans to work through behavioral issues and help owners understand dog psychology to better connect them to each other. I mean, what a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar comes to us today with his story of how he came to work with dogs during his incarceration and how those dogs led him to a path of self-awareness and healing and now thriving. This is a story of a journey born out of the courage to heal oneself and the incredible power that animals like dogs can offer us. We are so grateful to Oscar for sharing his inspirational story and inviting us into a space deep in the heart, I would
Yeah,
say.
definitely.
Yeah, this conversation is just steeping in courage and vulnerability and confidence. And we know what it takes to get to a point where a person can talk about a journey like this. So
Mm-hmm.
we are grateful to Oscar for welcoming us into that space and sharing that his life journey. So, without further ado, we introduce you to Oscar Rodriguez, and we will see you at the takeaway. Oscar, hello, and welcome to Kindred. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, Oscar, um, would you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
My name is Oscar Rodriguez. I'm the founder and CEO of Underdogs Canine Training. I'm the lead trainer of the company that I started. Yes.
All right, great. Well, it's funny when I was just before we got on, I was thinking, we don't know each other all that well, and we've only met once in person.
Yes.
However, when I first heard you speak on a panel at a conference hosted by the human and animal welfare organization called CARE, I immediately said to myself that Kindred needs to hear more of this story of recovery and healing, much of that recovery due to working with dogs while you were incarcerated. And many of you will remember we recorded an episode with Sloan Hawes from CARE, episode 49. If you haven't already listened, please do. They are doing great things in the world. Um, but Oscar, we are here to talk with you today all about your journey of healing and reconnection throughout your life, and ultimately to where you are today and your dog training business called Underdogs Canine Training, focusing on dog psychology, dog behavior, and I'm guessing a little human behavior in there as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, my sister and I know all too well that 99% of the dog's behavior problems are often due to ours. And we had an amazing trainer
Yeah.
who taught us everything we know today. So, but yes, often it's not just the dogs. But before we really dig in, I'd love to hear about your business, Underdogs Canine Training. When did you start your business, and what are your methods and goals when working with dogs and their people?
I started my business officially in 2022. I was training unofficially in 2020.
Hmm.
I graduated or got a course in dog psychology, animal dog behavior in 2019.
Okay.
But not until I felt at least a little bit, I started to think I can do this professionally,
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
and that I jumped in very scared because they didn't know if I was going to be able to make any money doing this or
sure.
much money doing this. I,
Right.
I I went ahead and jumped in 2022 and licensed I made a I signed up for an LLC and I started the process of paying taxes that in 2022.
Oh, great. Wow, that's amazing. So, do you have your own personal dogs?
I do.
Okay,
I
what do you have?
I have two medium-sized Xolo Squinkles. I have a coated a Xolo Squinkle, and I have a hairless Xolo Squinkle. It's also
Okay.
known as the Mexican hairless.
Okay.
Okay. So what size dogs are these? Like pretty small or medium? Okay.
They're medium-sized dogs. Although they're medium-sized dogs, the female, the sister, she was the runt of her litter, so she's 24 pounds.
Mm.
And when her brother was born, they put him up for adoption because he was born with hair, and that breed
Okay.
is typically without any hair.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So I gave him I went and picked him up and I adopted him. He's 44 pounds.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. So a lot
Yeah.
bigger. Yeah.
A lot bigger.
So that's like a recessive gene. Sometimes they come out with hair by accident. Oh dear. And nobody wants them.
If you want a hairless dog, this is a problem, people.
Yeah. When it comes to that breed, the population, the human population that adopts these dogs, purchases these dogs, they don't really hold to a high value, or they don't go after the dogs with hair.
Yeah,
Okay.
So
they don't
they
want
kind of-
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
people
gave
that-
him a home. Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
Oh, little
Yeah.
chilly, naked, nudie baby.
I gave him a home, and he's even signed up to get his monthly bark boxes. Yeah, he's
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Very
as they
good.
should. Spoil them, spoil them.
That's great.
So you mentioned a minute ago, you said there was something that just sort of made you think when you started working. That was like, oh, I can do this. What was that minute? What was that? Like, what was the thought that like, I think I could do this, even if I'm poor?
Yeah, no, totally, because um, I had I paroled in 2019, or I was released from prison in 2019, and I had been incarcerated for 25 years, and I came out and I was in transitional housing, and I started to look for clients, and initially it was very tough for me, so
Yeah.
I started baiting dogs. I started offering grooming,
Oh,
and
nice.
it's not necessarily the part of the industry that I was looking for work in, but
Right.
I just wanted to put my
You
hands
Yeah.
Yeah.
on dogs.
You needed a job, and it's hard to find a
start-
job after you get out of prison.
Yeah.
I understand too.
And it's
Yeah.
smart to just
Yeah.
kind of start somewhere with them to see, because sometimes you're like, okay, I don't actually love dealing with them. So, yeah, right. Interesting.
No,
That's very smart.
I started working at a training facility in LA,
Mm.
and the owner is Colleen, and the husband is David, in LA Canines in Culver City, and they offered me a job, and they were just telling me, as she was mentoring me, and she was also my boss, she was telling me, you just want to get your hands on dogs and work
Yeah.
with dogs and be around dogs.
Mhm.
So I was working there, and I started picking up clients grooming dogs.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's smart.
So,
And you're like,
so I-
yeah, I do actually. This. I can do this. I could do this.
in,
And you must have seen something too at some point there. You're like, you can see a disconnect between people and their dogs, and just sort of had that sort of instinct, like, okay, I can make these connections for people because it's so important.
it's very interesting because prior to me working with dogs, I was meditating and doing yoga and doing qigong, and through those practices, I started to develop um, a level of self-awareness.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And working with dogs, it just amplified that.
yeah,
Mm.
for sure it does.
And so that brought me closer to me and to the
Mhm.
dogs.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I started thinking that it was much like me sitting on the meditation mat, being with a dog,
Yeah.
just walking
Mhm.
with them, and that started
Yes.
bringing me to something more, a part of me that was more instinctual,
Yeah.
and I
Yes.
started developing that part of myself, and
Yes.
that is the process that brought me to notice more and more, as people started calling me to their homes and asking me to help them and support them in their process and working with their dogs, how wide the gap
Yeah,
of disconnect between owners and their dogs.
yeah. That's so
Well, and,
interesting. You just had that
dogs-
instinct.
I think they run purely on energy. So they felt
Yeah.
your energy and your groundedness. And, it's like, I'm sure you've watched Cesar Chavez before, right? And just him, how he comes in and he's like, oh no, I'm steady. And then these dogs are like, oh, we like that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
right.
people
They
don't
get that
realize that
energy.
it's
Yeah,
not
no,
really the dog behavior. Sometimes it's them that is creating it.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. Cesar Milan is
Cesar
great.
Milan, not Cesar
Yeah.
Chavez. Cesar
Yeah.
Chavez is either a baseball player. I think he's a baseball player. So yeah,
Oh,
I meant
close
Caesar
enough.
Milan.
Caesar.
And yeah,
The Caesar. Yeah.
he's great when talking about and explaining energy
Yeah. Yeah.
and bringing some awareness in the vocabulary of how to help us people in making those connections. And it's very interesting to me because I was once introduced to the idea or to the thought, right? Sometimes it helps, or many times it helps to know what we're looking for in order to see it.
Right.
And so it's helpful to have guides. It's helpful to have mentors. It's helpful to have someone who's been down certain roads with us when we're on those roads, not to tell us what our experience should be like, but to give us an idea of what to look for in order for us to identify it, what it individually looks like within ourselves.
Well, that is so true. And Oscar, this is the perfect time to ask,
Yeah.
if it's okay with you, it's
Yeah.
if we could look back. You're reminding me of like this, like, if we look back and see the child that you were, the person you had access to or didn't have access to at that time in your life. I'm thinking about mentors and things like that. And
Mm.
at some point, though, when we spoke, I think it was at the conference, you talked about how you were years into your double life sentence given to you as a juvenile when you were sitting in your cell and um, you started to connect what in your childhood got you to that moment. You kind of saw that thread looking back. I'm wondering if this was the moment that began your healing journey. Like, was this a moment of clarity that when looking back, you were able to identify key things missing from your childhood that you then realized played a role in the path that led to your incarceration?
Yes, absolutely. Uh, while I was incarcerated, I found myself in like I'll use the metaphor that I found myself falling in the same hole, getting this in very similar situations where I was putting myself into trouble, and it got to a point that I remember sitting in my cell while in the hole, or in California and CDCR they refer to it as administrative segregation, but it's
Okay.
another word for the hole,
Solitary. Yeah.
solitary.
So
Yeah.
you called it the hole, and it was also a metaphorical hole for you,
Yes.
right?
And,
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
and I remember being there, and I was doing a 24-month administrative segregation uh,
Wow.
time that they sentenced me to do in the hole.
Okay.
And I remember being in there and revisiting um, the process that I got myself to placed in there. And I remember thinking to myself, here I go again.
Mm.
I attempted, in my mind, I attempted to take a different route, but it led me down the same hole.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so it was that moment of having that experience repeat itself
Mm-hmm.
that I brought myself to look at that. And it was through looking at that I then began gradually to discover, um, piece by piece, things that I remember experiencing since my childhood. And,
Right.
and it was in some of these things had been or were um, me suppressing emotions,
Mm.
Okay.
me uh, being mentored at that time, or not mentored properly at that time. Whenever I was feeling something, I would hear things like, "Okay, dust yourself off. You're a boy. Don't cry.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Hey, suck it up. Hey,
Yes.
men don't cry. Boys don't
Right.
cry." And language and words like this, right? And that showed up in my home.
Mhm.
That showed up in school.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That showed up with my friends.
Yeah.
And as I got older and I reached teenage years, that started showing up in different ways there. If I said, I remember feeling uncomfortable as a teenager wanting to talk about something, but it was connected to an emotion.
Uh-huh.
And I would be like, oh, don't say nothing,
Right.
because
Yes.
they'll think I'm soft, or they'll
Mhm.
think this or that. And
And
so
I
I
think
felt,
so much of this is also unsaid. It's just like
yeah,
you're just raised in a space where it's like you don't talk about, you don't, if they're not, you're not. And it's sort of like that the unsaid rules that we are all kind of raised with too.
oh no,
Yeah.
totally.
There's so much shaming, I think, about having emotions at all. I remember not
Hmm.
even being male, but I remember somebody saying to me, "Why are you, don't be so sensitive. Don't be so sensitive." And I just recently saw a
Yeah,
woman on Instagram who said, let's think about that for a second. If you're getting shamed for being sensitive, what's the opposite of sensitive? Insensitive. And she's like,
yeah,
that's not what I'm trying to be. And I was like a light bulb.
totally.
Last week I saw this. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Because
Right.
you're made fun of for being
Hmm.
so sensitive because you
Yeah,
have feelings and you
God
are,
forbid you have a feeling. Right.
and I can't imagine, when you're male and you're certain cultures and certain places, it's like you cannot afford to have feelings. Yeah.
Well, and just as a woman too, we're
Right.
yeah.
labeled all kinds of things. I mean, it just
Right.
goes on forever, all of us. Yeah. But go ahead, Oscar.
No, no, totally. I think that as human beings, we see the damage that is inflicted in us when we're taught that way.
Hmm.
So, like in the story where Hansel and Gretel, I started following the breadcrumbs all into my childhood.
Ah.
In these things, following that, I could trace it all the way into my adulthood.
Mm.
And when
Wow.
I entered into prison, where it became the things that we just talked about in our individual lives, but now on
Hmm.
steroids, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now I'm really concerned about
Yeah.
uh, showing
Yeah.
emotion.
You can't probably have very many feelings showing in prison. That is not safe. Yeah.
Maybe,
So
yeah, anger. That's probably about it.
Right. Or
you
in
know,
violence.
so
Yeah.
and so it was very interesting because even anger, depending how that was channeled, that could be interpreted as weakness.
Oh,
This
Interesting.
interesting.
person,
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yep.
this person's anger makes this person out of control.
Right.
Hmm.
That was viewed as a weakness in prison.
Yeah.
So there was all these reminders of controlling
Mm.
the movement of emotion inside myself.
Hmm.
And it got to a point where it started to demand my attention because just like steam inside of a pipe,
Yes.
Hmm.
I wasn't able to hold it in there anymore.
Hmm.
Right.
And so it demanded my attention. And by the time I was in that seg or in the hole, and I was looking at the things, at the incident that I was involved in, that I landed myself in back in the hole, I started finding connections to the other things that landed me in similar situations. And like I shared right now, I was able to trace that all the way back to my childhood.
Wow.
It, just that the incidents looked different, but it was
The same
uh,
pattern, kind of. Yeah.
same pattern, same stream.
Well, that
And
makes
That's so
sense. I think,
fascinating that you were able to come to that on your own. I think a lot of people need to have, like, I'm just sitting here thinking
it's
about
amazing.
having the ability to see that in your own self, but also, I guess if you have 2 years where you have nothing to do, you're either going to lose your mind or you're going to use your time wisely. But I still don't think very many people have that ability. I think you
Right.
must be a
Agreed.
unique human being to be able to put that all together.
Yeah. How did it
I,
present itself to you, to yourself? Like, what was the thoughts?
you know that interestingly enough, the thoughts were visiting me
Mm.
um, they had been visiting me throughout my life
Uh-huh.
in small little whispers and small little
Yes. Hmm.
like I'll call them like ribbons of thought,
I
Hmm.
understand that.
like
Yes.
like like just like glimmers, right?
Yeah.
And they were showing up throughout my life, but I had practiced so much like an athlete, but I was practicing so much to suppress and
Hmm.
Yeah.
ignore
Yeah.
emotions, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that when I by the time that I was looking at these things at this time in the hole, I started remembering by association. It seemed like to me that all these memories of me suppressing and ignoring started to come up, and I started noticing this has been almost like email, right, or a text message.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow.
things that I was experiencing were bringing up memories of other moments where my life was
I get it. Yeah, I get that.
tapping
I was gonna
tapping
Mhm.
say,
me up.
I call it a tap on the shoulder. We've all had them, and you can
Yeah,
ignore it for a while, but eventually, unless you start tap dancing a lot faster, it gets your attention. But
yeah.
you being able to like be your own therapist is kind of amazing, actually.
It,
It is
it's
amazing.
really interesting because I noticed from my own experience that incarceration, the conditions of prison, um, one is very violent. People are losing their lives. People are being hurt. People
Mm,
are away from their family and in many ways alone, even though
Yeah.
they're around other people.
right.
And because 24 of the 25 years that I was incarcerated, and I was incarcerated in maximum security prison. So this is uh, a very warlike or war type environment.
Yeah.
Right.
And so now I find myself in the hole, and there's people in there for similar situations, or and people in there, even in the hole, there's violence there.
Yeah.
Mm,
So under that type of setting, either a person emotionally and mentally collapses and loses their mind,
yeah.
or it pushes them to find the answers to what they're
Hmm.
experiencing under that condition.
Right.
Well, and here you are in
That's
this
true.
this very isolated space, and
Yeah.
you get another tap of the shoulder, and you're like, well, I might have the space and time to listen to that. And I'm going to sit with that for a little while. At least that's what it sounded like you did. I mean, like my
It
sister
takes
said,
some
not
courage,
everybody
though. It
did,
takes
but
a lot of courage, I think.
an
Uh,
incredible amount of courage. Absolutely.
it's really interesting because um, in starting that process, I didn't realize how much courage that was going to require, because at that
Hmm.
point in my life, I thought that courage meant physically standing up to people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I thought
That's the
that
easy
was
part. Right.
I thought
Well,
that was courage. And
yes.
Yeah.
when I started turning inwardly and sitting with myself, or looking at what came up, and eventually sitting with myself and keeping myself from wanting the impulse of running away from, depending on
Hmm.
what came up, right? And just like meditation, um, starting off at 5 seconds, 10 seconds,
Yeah.
20 seconds,
Hmm.
5 minutes of sitting with things that to me were very uncomfortable.
Yes.
And eventually I started sitting with things that I found myself, that made me afraid, they
Hmm.
made me feel angry, they made me feel frustrated. Um, that's where I noticed, I came into the understanding that this is where courage, the type of courage that I require in order to sit in that, is
Hmm.
not courage that I had considered before.
Ever had, yeah, right,
Hmm.
ever experienced. Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
Incredible. Well, Oscar, I'd like to jump forward now a bit to
Mhm.
this 24-year, 25-year period you just mentioned. You're 24, 25 years, correct me if I'm wrong, into your double life sentence, and you get word about two astonishing opportunities.
Mhm.
The first was that you, a person sentenced as a juvenile to two life sentences, were suddenly up for parole due to new legislation passed in California that said it was no longer legal for courts to sentence a child, a juvenile, to two life sentences. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
what the wording basically was saying that that there should be a meaningful chance at parole
Hmm.
Okay.
for
Okay.
juveniles that were sentenced as adults.
Right.
And
Okay. So you came up for a meaningful, okay, chance for parole. Thank you for that clarification.
sooner than rather than later.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay. And then shortly thereafter, because of this,
Hmm.
this meaningful parole,
Hmm.
you were also invited to be part of a program where inmates were working with rehabilitating dogs.
Hmm.
And this was a critical moment. As programs like this were not previously available to you and would not
No.
have been if that legislation had not been revised. So Oscar, talk to us about getting that opportunity. What were those early days like working with dogs? I mean, were you familiar with dogs in the past, or was this your first experience building a relationship with them? Like, talk to us about that, those early moments.
It's really interesting, Kate, because something really interesting happens. I know it happened to me in through talking with folks that were also incarcerated for a very long time and a lot of years. I noticed through their own testimony or sharing with me that it happened to other people that were in this, having the same experience. Um, I grew up with dogs, but
Okay.
the longer that I was in prison, that I was incarcerated, um, I had to really consciously look for the memories and the
Mm,
experiences of when I was with a dog.
okay.
And most of my experiences and memories, not just with dogs, with anything that was my life, that was part of my life out before incarceration. Um, the longer that I stayed in prison, the harder it was for me to retrieve those memories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the longer that I was in prison, the thinking that I did, or the thoughts that came up in my mind, were within the context of what was going on in the prison.
Prison. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so when someone told me, when I was put up for transfer and I was told that I was going to given the opportunity to go to a lower facility, a lower level facility of slightly less security.
Yeah.
They mentioned, an officer mentioned that there was dogs there, and there was a program that was being offered to incarcerated people to take for that it was a class. And when he said that, I remember uh, no images, no pictures came up in my mind
Mm,
about of dogs. I just remember thinking, dogs. Uh, who has access to these dogs? The officers, or the incarcerated people?
right.
But I was kind of like,
What
what
are you talking
dog?
about?
Yeah, but it was almost like
What
Yeah.
do
when
you
they
mean
were talking.
dogs? He might as well
Yeah,
have said aliens.
it might as well say aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost seemed like they had talked about something that was so far back in my
Yeah.
experience that it was making me squint. Like, what? They have
It,
what?
Interesting.
is that a protection you think that you go into a protective mode that you just sort of separate from anything that was before life because it's too painful to try to remember, or do you think it's just life
It's a poss-
becomes? Yeah, I'm just curious.
it's a possibility, but I also think that it comes through a natural process of what we're exposed to
Yeah.
Yeah.
for a repeat repeatedly. For
Yes.
instance, when we get behind the wheel of a car, our thoughts and our thinking naturally goes to things that are associated with driving,
Right.
Yeah.
with the road,
Right.
with putting our seatbelt,
Mm-hmm.
and together with that, there's something. There's studies under the title of sensory deprivation.
Right.
Yeah.
And what happens when we stop seeing certain things, we stop hearing certain things, um, we stop smelling certain things,
Mm-hmm.
we stop feeling certain things.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
The areas in our brain that light up being exposed to things begin to stop
Shrink,
lighting up.
actually. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Yes.
whatever we're exposed to, that is what lights up in certain parts of our brain.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
so incarceration, what was available to my senses, uh, was brought down to a very basic
Right.
level.
Mm-hmm.
That makes
Um,
sense. That makes
it-
sense. So then he's mentioning, hey, there's a program over there you could work with dogs. And so you come into this. When did this sort of start to be like, okay, dogs? And did you then like ask, like, how did you get connected with it then? Like, how did that go?
yeah, I finally got transferred to the facility, and I was sent to a part of a building where new arrivals arrived to.
Okay.
And when I got there, communication amongst the incarcerated people moves really fast.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there, someone that was also incarcerated, I met them. I told him who I was, and he told me who he was. And he greeted me. I greeted him, and I'm by that. An hour later, 2 hours later, I found out uh, other people that I knew, but I just hadn't seen them for years. They
Yeah.
were also in the facility, and it just so happened that two people that I knew when I was a teenager, when I first got my double life sentence at that time, they were also there, but they were in a dog program.
Oh,
And
interesting.
because they were taking community college classes, they were in a dog program, and within the context of being in prison, staff and correctional officers call it this person is programming, this person is doing positive programming.
Right.
Okay.
So when the two individual incarcerated folks that I knew spoke to the officers and told them and asked them if they could come and greet me and say hi to me, they let them come over.
Oh,
And
wow.
so they came and talked to me, and I remember feeling so happy because I hadn't seen them for so long.
Yeah.
And they shared with me what was going on with them, and because the community of folks that are incarcerated in California, even though I think right now it's at somewhere at 120,000 or right underneath that, it's a very small population.
Right.
And once you're in there for a number of years, people will start hearing news or stories or information about people, even if you don't see them.
Yes.
Eventually, people get transferred, and they're like,
Yeah.
hey,
And the
another
news
person.
travels fast.
Yeah.
Yes, and depending on what circles you're in, if you're in school and you're doing things that are positive,
Yes.
you'll eventually bump into people that were also doing those things, and
Yeah.
Right.
they carry the information, just
Yep.
like a small town 500 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I want to talk to this
Yeah.
person more, and they want to talk to you more. So
Yeah.
then once you get there and you're talking with these old friends and they're in this work, is this when you're like, they're like, you got to do this. And you're like, I will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember them sharing that with me, and they share with me about the dog program, and they're telling me what it is and what they do there. And I remember still thinking, this just sounds so unbelievable to me
Right.
at the time.
Foreign
I'm
to
like,
your brain.
yeah. So, and I'm hearing them telling me this, but at the same time, I'm still kind of like not so much in shock. I'm just like trying to absorb it.
Yeah.
Like there is a dog program here, and both of the guys that were telling me this tell me then that I would be perfect for it. And they encouraged me to be part of it. That even though
Interesting.
that we hadn't seen each other, they tell me that they've been hearing how I've been doing, and this fits the life that I was living now.
Interesting. It's
And I
almost like
don't.
they saw something in you that you weren't even registering. They were getting a sense or a vibe, or they could get an energy from you
Right.
that was like, dude, this is going to work for you.
And it's really interesting, Kate, because I think you and I had touched on this, talking about having a conversation before that. The things that we're doing in our lives, if and they just so happened that at that time I was doing a lot of looking like inward looking.
Yes.
I was doing a lot of work on myself. And when I got there, having that conversation with them, it just fit with the work that I was doing.
Yeah, and people can, like dogs, we can pick up that energy. We sense that out, especially when we need our senses, when we've learned to know what's going on. And when you have to read a room,
Yeah.
people know how to read a room and they can read your energy
That's
quickly.
Right. Well, right. And probably they're like, we want that guy with us because he feels familiar and he feels like he's on the same wavelength, then he'll be good for this. I mean, I'm sure it helps to have like-minded people in the program, makes them feel better too and safer and whatever else. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
A tiny quick question though, none of this is available? Is it true that none of this stuff is available in maximum security? Because you're not allowed to take classes or anything, right? Which is that why it took so long to do that? Because of the prison, the maximum security you were in? Is that why?
No, a big part of that is true, because in maximum security prisons there isn't typically there hasn't been programming there, like any kind of education.
Right.
Most education classes, let alone dog programs, or any other type of self-help programs. I was in there. I was incarcerated for 25 years. 24 of those years I was in maximum security prisons. For the first 15 years, there was zero.
Yeah.
There was zero classes available in those yards.
Yeah.
And back then, I'm trying to remember the year that CDCR added the R to CDC, which is basically the California Department of Corrections and
And
Rehabilitation.
rehabilitation. Yeah,
Right,
right.
right.
Yeah.
Where's the
But
rehabilitation when there's
Right.
no, you stare at a wall? Yeah,
no, but
or worse.
that the rehabilitation part came not that long ago.
No,
Right.
right. Yeah.
You know, that
Right.
was added to CDC
Yeah.
maybe like in 2012, 2015.
Yeah.
Wow,
And,
that is
and
so recent.
Which is a
so
whole other problem, but
That's a
okay.
whole other
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
because
So,
Okay. I didn't want to get us off track, but I was thinking that's why. Yeah.
yeah.
but typically,
No, good question.
while I was in there, typically programming, as they would refer to it, like self-help classes, and in this case, the dog program, it was in lower level yards.
Yeah.
And
Right.
there was some thinking on the side of administration that the maximum security prisons are too violent. That they don't deserve this. It was more punitive.
Yeah.
Like lock
Yeah.
them down, put them
That's
in a
what I
hole.
That's
think.
a good way
Yeah.
to put it.
And easier for them not to offer it, probably, just honestly,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But okay.
So
And more of
then,
these-
so then, Oscar, what was the first dog that you worked with?
the first dog that I worked with, the trainers that were part of the program, they came and taught the class.
Uh-huh.
They call it was a boxer pit bull mix. They called
Ah,
her. It's funny because they called her Porter,
okay.
and but when she got there, the trainer who I was together with me that we were assigned to train her, we renamed renamed her. We renamed her China or China doll.
Okay.
She was such a beautiful dog, and and I thought,
Oh, I know boxers. I've had two of them, and my sister called my last one Leela, the supermodel of our family, and
Yeah, they're
was
beautiful dogs.
She was
Yeah.
something else. Boy, her and I would fight. She was like my sister dog. I fought with her like a sister. But those, I mean, put a pit bull and a boxer, like the dumbest of the dumb.
And the
and you
biggest
know what I mean
head
when I
on the
say that.
planet. The biggest head. They have such blockheads, both of those breeds. So she must have
Oh
had a huge
man,
head. Yeah.
dumb.
yeah, and so
That's a great dog.
she was the first dog that I got to train and be with and be around in the program. And I'm smiling right now. And to me, it introduced me to the power, the energy of dogs, and the specialness of dogs. Because even after having such a disciplined life at suppressing my emotions, right?
Yeah.
And ignoring and pushing things away.
Yes.
It's hard to do it when you have a slobbery face in your face.
And the wiggles, and I bet that dog leaned into you. Those boxers, they lean. They have that lean, and you're like, oh shit, I'm done.
So all your practice went out the window. Yeah.
It went out the window, and it
I
gave
love
me
that.
another practice. It gave me another practice. One that I made reference to that was basically where I was doing work at being more aware, developing self-awareness of what came up, right?
Yeah.
And I immediately noticed that with this dog, with China,
China.
there was I didn't have to consciously tell myself anything. I didn't have to make any or much effort. It just happened.
Yeah.
The connection between my brain and my heart, it just immediately happened.
Yeah.
Right.
You were ready. It was the right time for you. It was.
It combined with the power of animals and the connection.
Right. It was perfect. Wow.
It puts a person. I know it put me in a situation where, not a situation, but I remember experiencing. There was a particular time early on when she first came into the program, and I was in the program, and the fellow trainer that I was teamed up with to train her, I remember she had an accident in her crate where she used the restroom, and they would open the doors for the trainers at 6 a.m. so we could start feeding them and take them outside to use the restroom. But sometime throughout the night, she used the restroom inside her crate, and I remember they opened our doors, and the co-trainer that I was with, he told me to go check on her, So I went to check on her, and I saw her huddling in the back of the crate.
Aw,
Yes.
And I immediately knew that there was something wrong. I just didn't
yeah,
know what it was.
yeah.
So when I crouched down, the odor came to me, and I
Mhm.
thought, and I felt such empathy for her,
Mhm.
because
Yes.
at that moment I could relate, because she
Yeah,
was trapped inside this little box.
yeah.
Yes.
And typically dogs don't like to use the restroom when
No,
they
they do
sleep.
not.
No, and she
Definitely not. Yeah.
was, yes, she did.
Oh,
Oh
sometimes that
man.
happens.
But there,
So
here's the empathy.
and I remember seeing her in this very vulnerable state, trapped
Mhm.
inside of this little box, right?
Mhm.
And I immediately uh, found that so relatable, because up to that point, for 24 years, I had been in a little box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in moments where I have lost relatives because
Yeah.
they came to the end of their lives,
Right.
or something had me in a state that I remember being vulnerable
Mhm.
inside of a little box. So I saw her, and I immediately, the impulse was to comfort her, or how can I
Yeah.
Yeah.
help her?
Yes.
And fortunately enough, it was an opportunity for me to start to use uh, some of what was taught to me in dog psychology of how to help her.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so I opened the door, and instead of impulsively wanting to hold her
Hmm.
and cuddle her, I thought, okay, what is the right thing to do for her right now that would help her, that would actually help her? And so I opened the door, and I just waited for her to feel comfortable enough to come outside. I leashed
Mhm.
her. Once I leashed her, I remember I walked with her a little bit, and then when she felt comfortable, we sat there, and I sat on the floor, and I wasn't looking at her, I wasn't touching her, I wasn't talking to her, but I was just sitting with her. And I remember just reminding myself to regulate my emotions, not to avoid feeling what I was feeling, but to as
Yeah.
quickly as possible, to regulate what I was feeling in order to bring myself to as much of a balance as possible for
Yeah.
her sake.
For her
Right.
sake.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Like, oh my gosh. I mean, what an amazing moment. And this is the power of connecting to animals and nature, the empathy, and this awoke this part of you.
Yeah,
And, here you are, and now. And this was one of my questions to you is I'm curious what you thought you had to offer them. And this is what we're offering. This is this reciprocal, beautiful relationship we can have with animals where what you're offering her is the same thing it's that she's offering you, and that you can say, no, but actually what you also were doing, you saw her for who she was. And you
yeah,
thought, what does she need? Right? You can think about what
absolutely.
did you need as a child? We can think of what did she need as a dog in that moment. She doesn't need you to be all excited and, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. She doesn't need your feelings. She needs
No,
your support and your safety.
absolutely. It showed me two things, Kate. It showed me that as a human being, how much it helped me in wanting to help her,
Mhm.
Yes.
to have a understanding of how to help her.
Yes.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
in the moment, that
Mhm.
experience reminded me and showed me, um, as a child, the people that I had around me, very likely didn't have the understanding of how to help me.
Right.
Yeah,
Even
for
if they wanted
sure.
to, they didn't have the
Sure.
tools. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Right. Mhm.
absolutely. We are
Yeah.
all on a path of recovery.
Right. It's
So,
not only
yes,
wanting to help, you have to have the right skill set, the right
you have to have been taught
toolbox.
yourself.
Yeah.
We have to be
So
taught these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
so it helped me to be forgiving, or begin the
Yes.
process of forgiving other people,
Yes.
forgiving
Mhm.
myself when I was
Hmm.
Yeah.
being too hard on myself.
Right.
Of
Yeah.
Yes.
why did I experience this, or why did I
Right.
do
Yes.
this,
Mhm.
and just it was that magical, that moment of having that experience with China,
Yeah.
that it was actually opening me up to uh, all around beginning process of forgiving myself, other people. Um, what information do I have in order? Can I help her?
Mhm.
Yes.
In looking at things that I had learned up to that point,
Yep.
and uh, reaching out to using those tools
Yeah.
to help her. I
Yes.
remember at that moment, one of the officers came in and checked in on me and asked me, if everything was okay. And I told them what happened, and they started feeding breakfast at that time. And the officer tells me, what did I want to do? And to me, it's interesting because at that moment I already knew what I needed to do, which
Yeah.
was to stay there with her,
Yeah.
clean out her crate, and make sure that that her crate and where she sleeps is clean,
Yes.
and that she's and she needed a bath.
Yeah.
So when the officer came and asked me what did I want to do, did I want to go to breakfast or did I want to stay behind and clean up my dog? I there wasn't
No
Yes.
question. No choice. Yeah.
You're
You
like,
just
Daddy's
knew it.
got to
Yeah.
clean up the baby, so you got to change the diaper here. I mean, this is what we're doing. Yeah,
Yeah,
incredible, incredible.
I
You
told
just
him I'm,
knew, but you had these instincts. They were in you, Oscar. I truly believe that. And this is. Oh, go ahead, finish your thought.
no,
Yeah.
and it was very interesting, Kate, because that moment of what happened and what was going on with China,
Hmm.
me sitting out there with her, me going through the process of utilizing what I had learned up to that point. Other folks that were in the program that were also incarcerated um, were telling me as they were walking to breakfast that they would bring me something back for me to eat.
Yeah. Right.
And so that moment was also bringing in their mind, how can I help Oscar?
Yes.
He's not going to
The
go to
chain,
breakfast.
right. There's
Yes.
a domino effect in a good way of now we need to help our buddy because and I'm just thinking what you modeled by being so kind and loving and steady for her. I get a little emotional.
I know.
Like you
Same.
didn't get upset. You didn't get too excited and try, like you said, to cuddle her and take away her feelings. Like that's just huge. The positive
Yeah.
ripple that came
Yes.
from that one little encounter. Yeah.
An opportunity to practice what can or might be helpful to the dog, and then
Yeah.
look at the output to see if it was actually helpful.
Yeah. Right.
You know,
Yes.
and it's this practice and this reapplication of similar methods
Yeah.
that we get to look at and to look at again each time that we do it to see if it's actually helping the dog.
Yeah.
Right.
And this
And
works for each other and people like your friends who were bringing your breakfast. And this reminds me, Oscar, when we last spoke,
Mhm.
you talked about how after being in prison all that time, meaning prison, had become part of the fiber of who you were.
Yeah.
And when you told me that, you're reminding me of this now. Like when you told me that, I was so struck by this powerful image that conjured in my mind. Like prison had changed the fiber of your mind and body, like changed you on almost an anatomical level.
Yeah.
And and that makes sense to me. My question is, how did being with Gina and subsequently working with dogs, how did she begin this breakdown? What had become a part of you during your years in prison? How did being around her help you reconnect to your humanness? This is what we're talking about. You're reconnecting to your humanness and turn your body and mind back from being made of prison to being made of human again, if that makes sense.
No, totally. And excuse me real quick. Excuse me, totally. It totally makes sense to me because up to the point that when I joined the program, the dog program, I had started um, developing through a practice self-awareness and being together with my emotions whenever they came up. It was a practice that I had to consciously do.
Right. Yeah, I get that. Hmm.
And I had to do it over and over to get better at doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the dog program, um, it was she was I would bring her out of her crate and she would look at me and lick my face and it would happen.
Yeah.
I would feel my heart swell up and
Yeah.
I immediately lean into that emotion and sit with it and it was amplified to such an extent even however long I had been sitting and meditating prior to meeting China,
Yeah.
what I was feeling, whether I was feeling happy, loving, joy, sadness, whatever it was, it hadn't felt the way my heart felt when I was with her.
Yeah.
Well, you talked earlier about this sensory deprivation.
Right. I was thinking the
Yeah.
same thing. Like those
Yeah,
parts that
right?
close down. Yeah.
Yeah, and just even that the tactile, it's not just the emotional bonding that you're having, it's the physical contact. It's that
Oh,
the
yeah.
physicality is like waking up these human senses. It's like breaking down and replacing that sensory deprivation.
Well, like turning your brain back on, like you were saying, those parts of your
Yeah,
brain just sort of
turning your
turn
brain back
off.
on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because just like there's muscle atrophy, there's atrophy that happens
Yeah.
from not experiencing any of these
Absolutely.
Stimuli. Yeah.
That's such a
Right.
yeah.
great way
Yeah.
to describe it. It's
And,
atrophy. Yep.
and it's so interesting to me because being in the dog program with the dog that I'm assigned to, um, my brain still had stored experience of what love feels like, what empathy
Yes.
is, and um, uh, all these emotions were still stored there.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting because it was things that in some cases I hadn't felt in a very long time,
Mhm.
Right.
or it was new for me to experience what I was experiencing and not running away from it.
Yeah, and as an
Mhm.
adult too, like here you are,
Yeah,
a
that's
grown
great.
person
Yeah.
too, and you actually like are accessing what we talked about before, not having access to in this way. And you've been doing a practice. Jen and I, we call that what's your practice? This is the practice, the work,
Absolutely. And sometimes what comes up, it didn't feel um, like something I wanted to spend time feeling.
Mhm.
And it was just the program. It was the dogs in the program, the dogs themselves, that made it possible for me to spend more time feeling what I was feeling than I normally would have.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to me, it made it easier doing something that wasn't so easy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
it
it's
was
not just
very,
about you. Now it's
Well, and because
about
there's
you're
a reason
caring.
beyond that, right? There's a reason. Yeah. It's that. Yeah. Something outside of
absolutely.
yourself. Yeah.
It makes it reminds me of a gentleman named Joseph Campbell, right?
Oh yeah, I
When,
love
when,
him.
when
Yeah.
we're talking about following our bliss and something that's beyond
Yes.
us, and
Yes, sir.
I immediately saw the connection, experienced the connection between what I was doing and it being larger than me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
And in front of me was a dog that whose experience and development, if I dedicated myself to the best of my ability, and I went to people for help and understanding in order to apply what would help her, um, would help her get adopted and help
Right.
her not have to live in a shelter.
Yes.
Right.
And
Yeah.
most of the dogs that were in this program, again, I found it so relatable because they came from high kill shelters.
I was going to
Mhm.
say that the real threat of being euthanized.
Like it's their last
Absolutely.
chance, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm. Mhm.
So they had been living in a
Their
very
own maximum
similar,
security. Yeah.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
and dogs, um, similar to people, but to a larger extent, are very sensitive to the
Yes.
energy of what's happening to them,
Oh,
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
Yep.
of their outcome.
And they
If they
can't
don't,
compartmentalize like we do.
no,
Well,
they,
and you had to gain her trust the same way
Mm.
she had to
oh,
gain yours, you know?
it,
Yeah.
Oh,
and that's
man.
another thing because even from my childhood, it brought to the forefront of my thinking,
Mm.
um, how much have I been, who have I trusted, and how much have I been trusting with other
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
Mm.
And because I saw in her when she was brought to the program
Yeah.
how much she didn't trust,
Yeah.
Yes.
and I saw myself in her.
Wow. Yeah.
Of course.
Well,
I
and
mean,
I hadn't thought about this at all until this 1 second, but so when you're in prison, you don't really have to think about other people at all. Like you just take care of you. In fact, probably you don't think too much about other people because it's not safe because
or
then
you think about them
people,
in terms of safety. Yeah, right,
right.
right.
It's just like you're very, and just this idea of having now you're thrust into this position where you are putting the well-being of another being on the same level as yours, or maybe
Yes.
even above yours sometimes. And what
Hmm.
that does for the atrophy of the mind and the spirit, I'm just thinking, is
Also the
probably
spirit.
you can't
Yes.
even
It's
quantify that.
it's very interesting because what incarceration does, or I could say what it did to me, right? And it puts a person in a situation where they're just functioning from survival,
Yeah.
from this place of survival. There's a lot of thinking that's done about other people, but is being done in the context of survival.
Yeah.
Is this person?
Not really living, but just surviving. Yeah.
Yeah, because even if something is done to not endanger them,
Right.
it's coming from a place of fear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's coming from a place of fear and of preservation of one's own life.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's possible, the preservation of that person's life. And but it's constantly being weighed. How much am I placing myself at risk by doing this or doing that, and how much do I want to place myself at risk by doing A, B, C, or D for this other
Right.
person?
Exactly.
So there's always a constant weighing and measuring in relation to other people.
Okay. Yep. That makes
Even,
sense.
even in conversation with people that work in the facilities, whether there's correctional officers,
Yeah.
especially if it's really high up there if it's a correctional officer, because you know what the optics are like standing there having a conversation that goes past 3, 4, 5 minutes, and,
Right.
and other people are wondering what
What
are
you're
they talking about?
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Well, yeah, and I think, and again, coming back to like this self-preservation, animals understand that. And this is where this interaction you're having, this power of this positive energy that's transmitting between you is like they do the same thing. They
Yeah.
read their rooms better than we do. And it's just like this where and this is what's breaking down and reigniting all of this humanness. And I think like as children too, we can not a lot of us did, but learn about empathy and connection to ourselves. And it's like you're also, through connecting with nature, and you're also like trust building with the dog, you're trust building with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that this is where when we take parts away, it's like a bird in a cage. If you take away a bird's flight, are there really birds anymore? Like if you take away all this stuff, are you really human in that way? It's just a powerful story. I'm never going to get Sheena. I'm going to cry about her later. I'm sure I will cheers to her and that moment that is really powerful, Oscar. So thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah,
That's
that was amazing.
incredible.
Absolutely.
I'll say we're going to end here, Oscar, by asking you our kindred question we ask all our guests. To you, why is this such an important conversation to have? And why is it so important to talk about the healing we can create through animals and nature?
I think it's a very important conversation to have because it demonstrates how our connection with nature, in this case a dog, can provide a space where we can heal. Because there's so many of us, especially in today's time, I think that many of us are struggling emotionally, mentally with whatever side of politics or whatever our view is on anything, right? The things that are happening today has many of us, uh, I think, needing to self-regulate. And to me, talking about what we're talking about, it's a firsthand experience, information being drawn from personal experience that demonstrate the power of reconnecting with nature. In this case, I will also add, as you know, Kate and Jan, working with dogs, one of the a very important aspect of it or part of it is helping the dog's cortisol levels and stress levels lower.
Yes, cortisone.
In order to begin to put in place or start giving information of how to live within a certain structure to the dog, and so being around a dog introduced me to me, experiencing the lessening or lowering of cortisol and stress within myself.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a
It,
lot of that in prison. Your stress levels are off the charts. Yeah.
so this was very reciprocal.
Yes. So you
So
both benefited. Yeah. Yeah.
so as her stress levels started to lower and my stress levels started to lower, and I started to notice the changes inside of me, it reminds me of what a mentor of mine since I've been out has told me. Oscar, you need to give this dog your peace, because providing or giving our dog access to that energy, if we are regulating ourselves, will lower the dog's cortisol level. So us talking about this, sharing this, I think that many of us that are having an experience where we're struggling with stress, we're struggling with anxiety, we're struggling with having our heart broken of just of what we've been witnessing around the world, or even in our own communities or in our neighboring states, we can see the benefit of having access to lowering our own stress levels in order for us to begin to process things that can help us.
Yes.
And because when we're exposed to too much stress or too much cortisol, even when we're being given good information, we're not processing it adequately.
Right.
And I've learned this through dogs. What happens to them when um, uh, their body is just full of cortisol, full of
Yes.
stress, and
Yep.
their ability to be open to new information is zero.
Right.
Yes. And I learned about cortisol through my dog. Absolutely. It's one of my dogs taught me a lot, and I learned that from her. And I just love what you're talking about, though, Oscar. The ability to self-regulate
Yeah.
so that we can give each other peace. These two ideas to me that's amazing. I've never thought of that self-regulation. So when I'm driving through my day or in my home, and if people don't know what we're talking about with cortisol, go down a rabbit hole. You'll soon know. Dogs have it, we have it. It's an incredible thing to know. It's just such a great connection. Thank you for that.
No, yeah, we're bringing health back to each other's ecosystem.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, Oscar, thank you so much for sharing this journey and this incredible story of how you came to finding yourself, and the healing journey that you have dedicated your life to, and how dogs became part of this healing journey, one that will continue for the rest of your life, as it can for us. And, I think what's so powerful for me, and Jen and I talk about this a lot, and looking at your story, when you had access to yourself, you begin to choose connection and healing instead of the opposite, which to me is disconnect and then harm. And
Absolutely.
by choosing to give back and help dogs, you've ended up not only helping yourself, but now you've helped others through your business. And it just
Yeah.
is, it's so powerful. And, we're all on our own paths of recovery in our different ways. And what an inspiration. And we can tell Jen's not met you, but she already can feel what I saw when I saw you on that panel talking about this, where there's an energy that you have that you were able to lean back into or lean into, and you identified that, and you've made this is what we need in this world, self-regulation so that we can give peace to each other. So thank you, Oscar.
Thank you, Kate. I think that if as a people, if we're gonna have a chance to finding ourselves again, it's gonna be with each other's help.
Yes. And it's not always going to be through dogs. For somebody else, it's going to be something else. You just find the thing that works for you, and that
Yes.
helps you to feel that connection, which
That's right.
helps you to be like you are now. You're the best version of yourself you've ever been. I can tell that. Yeah. And you're continuing to spread that around with the dogs and the humans you come in contact with, which is the only chance we have in
Yeah.
this world, I
Yep.
believe. It doesn't matter what, if you're brushing a dog, training a dog, or whatever it is, find your thing and share your piece. It's very inspiring.
Thank
I
you
know. Now
very
you got
much.
us. Now we're both crying. So
Yeah, thanks a
thanks for that.
lot.
So inspiration. I'm
I
gonna go cry and sweat for a couple hours. It's great. All good stuff. It's just in the heart space. This is kindred. This is what we do.
there's so much beautiful, incredible emotion moving through my body right now that I'm leaning into and just sitting in with, and I just have to say thank you to both of you, and to Kindred, because this is definitely something that of the relationship that I have developed with myself is basically being I hope felt by all your viewers,
Yeah.
because that's what to me is healing.
Yeah. Yep. Well, trust me, it translates. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
And
thank you.
enjoy you have, I don't know if we talked about this during recording, but you have two dogs that are hairless and not so hairless, but that were supposed to be. But please, give them a squeeze for, what are your dogs' names?
One of them is Toto, Toto,
Uh-huh.
and Yadi.
Toto and Yadi. All right. Well, they
Cute.
couldn't be luckier to have you. So,
Yeah.
Oscar, what an inspiration. What an
Yeah.
absolute joy to talk to you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
And we hope to talk to you again someday. Oh, before I forget though,
Yes.
two things.
Oh, yeah.
What's an organization? Like, how can we support you is what I'm trying to get to.
Mm.
How can we support your work and the people around you? Is there a specific organization we can check out? And an
Okay.
organization we can support, your Instagram page, and then what was the org that you worked with in prison as well?
Yeah, the Oregon prison is the Positive Change Program.
Okay. Yes.
Its mother org is Marley's Mutts.
Marley's Mutts. Okay, I know who they are. I know who both they are. Okay, great. Yes.
They continue to do wonderful work inside of correctional facilities.
Okay.
Where they're providing access access to dogs to people that are incarcerated, both in men prisons and female prisons and juvenile prisons.
Oh, good.
Well, there's an opportunity for people to
Oh boy, do I love that. Okay.
their humanity again through this process. So anybody that would like to or can support, just go to their web pages.
Yes.
One of them is Marley's Mutt, and you'll see the other one, which is Positive Change Program.
Yeah, and we'll put that all in our show notes so people don't have to, they'll easily find them there. And then where can we find you on social media?
On social media, you can find me at Underdogs Canine Training.
Okay.
And it'll be connected to my name, Oscar Rodriguez.
Okay, great. All right, great. I almost forgot to ask that. You got me such in the heart space and all, feelings. I forgot about some logistics here.
Got to do the details. The details.
That's right, important details. All right, Oscar,
well,
thank you again.
So much.
Please take care and be well. We'll talk soon.
Thank you very much, Jan and Kate. I appreciate you both very much.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the takeaway. I'm gonna ask you to go first, Jennifer. I'm so curious what your takeaway was. I mean, I have mine, and my heart is still cracked open, but the tissues, we put them away, so that's good. We feel like we're centered and all the things. So this is a hard one to pick. There was a lot of takeaways here.
There's so many things, but I have been thinking about it, and I think that first of all, I loved pretty much everything he said and was just completely kind of unexpectedly surprised and delighted pretty much with everything he said. I loved his perspective. I loved how there were so many things I loved about it. But distilling it down to what was the big overarching thing that hit me, excuse me for clearing my throat, was that sort of distilled in that story he told about Sheena at the end, where he was talking about her accident in the crate and how he approached that based on his, first of all, the fact that he just stopped and really, he said, I had to regulate myself in order to be able to meet her basically where she needed to be met. And I thought what it reminded me of was when you actually do the work of becoming yourself, how it allows you the space to have empathy and mutual respect for other beings in the world. And what it reminded me of was a recent conversation that we had with our range rider friend, the same way when he said to the rancher, "What is it that you need from me?" And I felt like I all of a sudden saw a thread through most, if not every conversation that we've had of this idea of when you come to a situation as in a balanced state, let's say, and you're actually curious about what does this situation need from me? What is required of me in this moment? Which I think is the twofold things that I've been able to pinpoint is the mutual respect and the empathy too, to have empathy and not to look at the situation or the person or the animal as other, but as we're equal. And what is it that I can offer you instead of coming in, looking at it as other, and how is it that I can defend myself so you don't take anything that I need?
Yep.
And so for me, that was the overarching takeaway that was so well epitomized by everything that he said, that his life, he chose to prepare himself for that moment.
Yep.
And that when that moment arrived, he was able to meet it with exactly what it needed. And that to me is, that's what being human is to me, honestly.
I agree.
So
really,
that's,
really
I think,
powerful.
Why it hit me so hard is that it just was, the authenticity in that, and the ability to heal that's created by doing that is really what my overarching takeaway was.
Yep. Yeah, and mine's very similar. I will say, just as a little bit of behind the scenes, Kat, our producer, is always on these calls, and she's kind of on text and saying, hey, this is where at minute-wise. And the time you're just talking about, she wrote, oh my gosh, this is life-changing. She just cared how he treated her in that moment.
Yeah.
She didn't care about his past or who he had been or she didn't even care where they were physically located, like what you were saying there, right?
Yeah.
He responded to her. I mean, and she's like, this is kindred.
Yeah.
And it really was an amazing moment. I love what you're saying. And it's so important, I think, to bring these things out, because that's really what we're talking about, these kind of moments. And it's the bigger picture. And I had a very similar, it's going to sound like I'm saying the same thing, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I wanted to go back to, in our conversation when Oscar was talking about being in the hole, and it was a moment where he started to acknowledge or have an awareness of himself that he had not had before, and a moment of self-reflection that really began his healing and self-awareness journey. And I think it was this moment that what I call the witness in him, or the small voice, or we talked about the tap on the shoulder, whatever you want to call it. He was able to hear because he was in a quiet moment, but he was willing to hear it. He was open at that time to hear it. But then we kind of jump forward. It wasn't until he connected with dogs that his heart space was reignited.
Yeah.
Right? And then these two spaces, the mind and the heart, were awakened. And this is where he began a real path, to me, to reconnecting to himself and his humanness, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But it was in part the connection to animals, and in this case, dogs, that ignited that flame.
No, you're right, for sure. I mean, I think the foundation was set, but it was that is very well said. Yeah.
But then it's like what you're saying, it ultimately led to, and he said, the moment he said empathy, I felt empathy. And like you're saying, that's so critical at a time right now, we as humans with each other, to animals and our fellow human species. because his empathy to the dogs then led him to people, and then an understanding that reached far beyond just his trauma and disconnect to himself.
Right.
It became about those around him that were also experiencing a moment of need like the one you were talking about. And to me, that is what a truly incredible story of true restoration and repair, right? We talk about this all the time.
Yeah. Right. And if that is where the story had ended, it would still be a fantastic story that he just had that moment. But what is even more amazing to me is that he took that, and when he actually got out of jail, he's like, okay, well, what the heck am I going to do now? And he started, like he said, grooming dogs. It wasn't really what he was wanting to do, but it was a start. And he had somebody who gave him a chance, because as you and I know, because we listen to a lot of this stuff on podcasts, it's very hard to find a job when you get out of jail. When you say, I've been in maximum security for 25 years, and then
for sure.
And then he used that to give him a life on the outside too. Like, it's just, it kept snowballing to.
Yep.
And I think that's amazing too, that he was able to translate that into a livelihood. And now he employs other people, and he works with dogs, and he shares what he knows. And it's just, that's where also, I think, when you are in integrity with your actions, things tend to go that way, and it just starts to fall into place, which I also think is amazing, that he has a really good life now, and he's helping other people and helping other animals, and he's also it's just I just thought that was like the icing on the cake.
Oh, for sure. No, it really is. It's like what you say, because it's a continued journey of healing and recovery that we all can relate to on these paths that we are choosing. And, it just incredible. We're so grateful to Oscar for sharing his inspirational story and inviting us into a space that is really deep in the heart. I mean,
absolutely. It's a very, very intimate information that he was sharing with us, which was a privilege for him to trust us with that. And
absolutely. And we understand, though, that real vulnerability is real courage and real confidence.
Strength.
And I think that that's real strength, is to be vulnerable, is also to really know yourself and trust yourself. Incredible. Yeah. So thanks again to Oscar. You can find him on Instagram, like he said, at on his page. And you can, Underdogs Canine Training. You can also follow Positive Change Program and Marley's Mutts Dog Rescue. These are the programs that he got connected to while incarceration. They're a fantastic organization. Please check them out. And just thank you all around for listening. And we so appreciate it. Again, if you feel so inclined, please share this episode. Please follow us at the Kindred Podcast on our Instagram, and you can get more connected to us and our whole Kindred Plus community by subscribing on Apple Podcasts. And the one thing I always mean to tell people is that you not only can get early access to the new episodes, you get exclusive behind the scenes content, which is great, but you can also sign up and get a free month trial. So if you want to go and hear all the extras that we put up on the Kindred Plus, you can listen to all that and decide if you want to be a monthly, yearly donator, which would be amazing. So you can also check out the link on our website and start your trial today and hear more of these amazing stories. So again, thank you to Oscar. We will see you next time. And really,
and please let us know. I'm really curious what people thought of this episode, because it's a little bit of a departure, a little bit different to talk to somebody who's not a scientist or an author, or I'm just curious what people thought about this episode, because I thought it was so fantastic. So I'm curious.
And it's at the heart of what we really do touch on in a lot of our episodes. We just kind of really dove into it and went there. And
Yeah.
Oscar was willing to help us with that. So thank you so much. And when I say this, I really mean it. Lots of love, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Kindred is hosted by me and my sister Jen. Produced by Kat Gaddy and myself. Sound production and editing by Dan Cooper. Original music by Ellie Grace, and our Kindred artwork was created by Lindsay Coffin. Please follow, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and feel free to contact us through our website at kindredpodcast.co, where you can also find details about Kindred Plus, our subscription service, as well as links to our social media accounts and show notes.